Howdy Internet, this is Goatface. Welcome to the sewers. In today's episode, we're taking the plunge. What the? Okay, maybe I was a bit rash attacking right off the cuff. I haven't been in the best place mentally. Sorry. Hey man, Bonzi Kong 3 is hard! At least I bothered to show up. What's your excuse? Let me make this nice and simple for you, Ness. If you think you're so much better than me, prove it with a game. Whichever one of us can clean out these pipes fastest wins. Name your prize. You want your whip back? Fine. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but okay. If I win, I get that thing. He's a feisty one. Alright, not so super Nestor kids. Let's play! Nestor Kids was a game created by Entertainment System and released to arcades in the year 1983. Rather than continue to star in the Bonzi Kong series of games, Nestor and his newly introduced brother Howard have left the poor monkey to scrounge around in a greenhouse, while they went on to be in their own game, in which they scrounge around in the sewers. I'll leave it up to you to decide which fate is less dignified. Nestor's constantly shifting career would only become more tumultuous as his series would continue, going from a carpenter, to a plumber here, to a full-time adventurer, he was a doctor that one time, even a referee for a few sporting events. Nestor's creators would sometimes refer to him simply as Mr. Video, as they felt they could insert him seamlessly into any video game project they were working on, and they weren't wrong. Nestor's simple design and, well, blank slate personality make him an easy fit for almost any situation. Although the Nestor I know is a little easier to get a rise out of than the one you see on the box. This game in particular has probably the simplest story of all Nestor's adventures. He and his brother are plumbers, tasked with clearing the sewers of all manner of pests. That's it. It's not exactly the kind of high-stakes action we expect from our capped crusader these days, but keep in mind, the 1980s were a very different time for video games. Video game stories were nothing more than a vehicle to justify the setting you found yourself in. But what does this story afford us in terms of gameplay? Your goal in this game is to evict alligators, and yes, I know for sure this time, crabs, and monster-sized flies from the sewers they call home. Unfortunately, Nestor still hasn't quite gotten the hang of this platforming stuff yet, so jumping on enemies is something you can't do. Rather, you're intended to jump up from beneath them and flip them over, then you simply give them the boot. Failure to do so in a timely fashion results in the enemies becoming enraged, changing colors, flipping back over, and drastically increasing in speed. Once you've defeated enough enemies, your boss enemy, for lack of a better term, will appear. This boss enemy is just a regular enemy that starts in its enraged form. Knocking this enemy out moves you on to the next stage, functionally identical in appearance, but with a different selection of enemies to tangle with. In addition to the use of your hands and feet to dispatch enemies, you're also given access to this feisty TNT crate. Up to 3 times you can punch up into it from below to flip over any and all enemies who are touching the ground. Be wary, however, because after your 3rd hit, the TNT crate disappears, and simply completing a level is not enough to bring it back. Nestor Kids comes in phases, which I find interesting. It's cool to look back on early gaming and see how all the conventions we've come to know are still finding their form. There were no rules for stuff like this back in the day. Games came in levels, phases, stages, events, and even boards in some cases. Every few, phases, we reach a bonus phase, which encourages you to test your skill. The bonus phases simply require you to collect all the on-screen coins in the allotted time. This is where the screen wrapping really comes in handy. Being able to run in one direction perpetually is especially helpful in a game where turning around costs you so much momentum. Failure or success at these bonus phases has little impact on the overall game, aside from missing out on some sick bonus points. Either way, you move on to the next phase. And hey, starting with the second bonus phase, they start refilling your TNT crate for you. You probably saw this coming, but this game, like most we've spoken of, has no defined ending. The game only has 22 unique phases, looping over indefinitely, but it attempts a tricky deception by continuing to increment the phase counter all the way up to 99. I suppose if you lacked short-term memory, or if you just didn't mind the lack of content, the game could have infinite replay value for you. But despite my admittedly rocky memory, I do mind, and quite a bit. At least Bonzi Kong had the stats to admit when his games were looping. You pair of pixelated, pasta-pounding, pesky plumbers are just greedy. Trying to squeeze every last bite out of every player in a 16-tile vicinity? For shame! Okay, maybe I was a bit rash calling you greedy. How about selfish? Covetous? Money grubbing? Ooh, that one stung.
Frustrated Prince and Crusader.
I can't do this! Why is everything so hard?
You won.
No, I barely squeaked by. Again! I went 2 whole seasons without ever posting a loss, and now it feels like I can't even go 1 episode without falling flat on my face and making a fool of myself in front of everyone! I don't get it! It's like I'm cursed or something!
Hello.
Are you the guy?
The guy?
The lost cultist.
Oh, yes. I am the Count of Gigabytes. Missing number.
You're here for the Scarlet whatever then?
No, yes, no. Not yet. Not until we've made our point.
Okay. What is this point?
The old man's obsession with UFO was the Count of Gigabytes' downfall. We could have possessed the Scarlet Scar easily had he not insisted we wait. Insisted we let your story progress. Let you all have your arcs. All in the service of a satisfying ending.
Was he satisfied?
He's dead.
So, no. Hey, put that down!
Why? So your fans can watch you lose again? This is what's so infuriating about this obsession. Neither you nor he seem to understand that no one watching cares about your let's plays. And I am going to prove it to you all. People don't watch the G0ATFAC3 Corner for you. They just want to see things like us. I'll leave you to wallow in your self-pity. I like to think he would want that. He was always the vindictive type. Most negatives are. I have one more thing to cross off my to-do list before we come back for the Count's prize. See you soon, Prince and Crusader.